Among self-identified liberals, 37% said that the snippets harmed their perception of the governor. So in other words, 26% overall said it harmed their perception of him. And among liberals, 37% said it harmed my perception of the governor.
Megyn Kelly has a message for Gavin Newsom, and he is gonna hate it. Guys, this is gonna be a good clip. I think you're gonna like it. As many of you know, Gavin Newsom is, let's just say, getting a little more active politically as of late. Some are speculating he may run for president in 2028. I think that's very possible. You know, he's a very slick guy. He's, a very good politician, I'll say, to give him a compliment. I don't like the guy, but, he's pretty good at making people think he's, the reasonable guy. Like, hey, guys, I'm Gavin Newsom. I'm such a good, relatable guy. People fall for it. Why? I don't know. I guess they find him charismatic and handsome or something like that. With all that being said, we're just going to get into it, folks. But first, do me a huge favor here. Like our video and share it around so we can keep bringing all this great hard-hitting content. As always, Patriots, I'm Rose Darian, and this is Resist the Mainstream.
Let me give you some of those numbers that Charlie was referencing because they are brutal. Capital Weekly, a nonprofit publication covering California politics, did a poll of a survey of 1,000 Californians and had them watch clips of Newsom's interview with Charlie. The podcast only made 13% of voters have an improved perception of the governor. 26% said it harmed their perception. 58% said made no difference. Among self-identified liberals, 37% said that the snippets harmed their perception of the governor. So in other words, 26% overall said it harmed their perception of him. And among liberals, 37% said it harmed my perception of the governor. Among those who have very favorable opinions of Gavin Newsom, he lost 16%. So he went from people who liked Gavin Newsom, liberals, saying, I have a very favorable opinion of him at 46%, it fell to 30%. So Charlie's correct. He's hurting himself with his liberal base by doing these interviews of people like Charlie and Steve and Michael Savage. It's because the thing about Gavin Newsom is he's not very good at pushing back. So he's not going in there and doing battle with the Charlies and the Bannons of the world. He's somewhat obsequious, to be honest with you. I mean, it's very strange because when you listen to him, you would think like he's a moderate, but he's not. On the trans stuff and virtually every other subject, he is as radical as they come. He is another Kamala Harris, but there's something about him. Maybe he's a people pleaser, a vintage politician. When he gets across from these are our war fighters. And truly, like the three I mentioned, these are war fighters in a way, rhetorical war. He feels the need to get their approval. That's how it feels. And he's getting excoriated by the left-wing press as a result. It's actually kind of amusing. We put together a budded soundbite. Take a listen here.
I thought that was one of the most inauthentic things I have seen Gavin Newsom do.
Wow.
I'm terribly,
so you don't believe in the let them hang themselves theory?
No, I'm terribly disappointed. I think you meet energy with energy. And what he did was he showed his pretty white teeth and his cute face and did nothing other than that. And I think it's despicable.
I texted him about them. I'm like, what are you doing? And I used other words. But it wasn't challenging people who are actually famously trollish and say lies and things like that. If you don't push back on lies, they exist.
I always thought he was kind of he'll be whatever he needs to be politician. This is way worse.
Adam Kinzinger.
Look, there are many of us that actually, I'm not saying this for sympathy, but basically sacrificed a career taking on people like Steve Bannon. Democrats are ticked off at him, and there's no Republican that's going to go, that California liberal, I like him. Steve Bannon.
Amazing. Adam Kinzinger. I sacrificed a career taking on people like Steve Bannon. Did you really? I don't, that's not how I remember it at all. No. You got Trump derangement syndrome. You decided to be a anti-J6 warrior. You participated in the J6 committee, which was completely dishonest and a show trial. And Republicans decided you weren't their cup of tea. It was not Steve Bannon's fault. In any event, they're melting down on the left over what Gavin Newsom is doing, which is kind of fun. I mean, it almost makes me want to see it continue, but not really, because unlike Bill Maher, who definitely has a touch of the TDS, but can be fair to Republicans, the way Gavin Newsom governs is truly radical. I mean, there's nothing fair about the way he runs California when it comes to fairness to Republicans. Nothing.
Of course, the left-wing media is going after Newsom for having conversations with, people like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, etc. After all, they hate conversations with people who disagree with them. They just do, all right? The left's goal essentially is to dehumanize its opposition. You can't touch them. You can't talk to them. They're awful people. And if anything, you should lock them up in prison forever, like with Donald Trump, for example, case in point. Or, possibly even end their lives, all right? You remember when they were calling the death penalty for Derek Chauvin? All right, and I don't even know if he was Republican or Democrat. That's besides the point. But they saw him as an affront to their agenda, and he had to be eliminated because of that. Notice how Megyn Kelly said that Newsom comes off moderate. She's completely right, all right? And that is actually what we need to be careful of, because I think that's the real reason he's having these conversations, all right? And it's the reason why is he wants to set up a presidential run for 2028 and look more reasonable. He doesn't need the votes or the support of far left people in California. He's got that state on lock. Every Democrat does. It really doesn't matter. What he needs to do is convince people that he is the reasonable guy who's going to reach across the aisle. And I think it is a cynical ploy. Remember that story you told Charlie about, look, Charlie, my son really wanted to visit you today, but I wouldn't let him take a day off school to come visit you because school is important, right? And as Charlie pointed out, this is the same guy who locked down school for 2 years, okay? I don't think that story even happened. I think he made it up. He's trying to look cool and relatable, and you know what? It's working. There are people who respond to that. Oh, yeah, Gavin Newsom, look, his son's woken up, Oh, he's having a conversation. Maybe he's waking up. I mean, there are people actually saying this. I think unironically. It's a little bit concerning. Guys, these politicians are slick, okay? Especially Gavin Newsom. He's a snake oil salesman, okay? He is not your buddy. Trust me, I'm very far left. I support climate change, sex changes on kids, then I backpedaled on it. Same thing with the sports, all of it. Jokes aside, those are all true things, all right? You can look it up. He has supported every far left policy in the books. Do not trust him.
He's sided over and over with that lunatic, Scott Wiener, the one that Carrie and Britt have been chasing down all over California on his radical trans ideology. I think he's only rejected that guy one time on his most crazy trans agenda. And now he wants to come out and say like, oh yeah, boys shouldn't be in girls' sports. Like Charlie said, well, what have you done about it, you loon? Exactly. That same guy in Massachusetts who I've been railing on, I can't remember, Seth Moulton. Remember after the Dems lost in this past presidential election, he was like, you know what? We've really gone too far. Boys shouldn't be playing against girls. I have 2 daughters. You go back. He voted against stopping that every single chance he had. He's a U.S. congressman. He voted in favor of allowing boys access to girls' sports and girls' private spaces every single chance he had. So it's like, that's great that you can now go on a podcast or issue a press release saying you're on my side, but you govern, you legislate 180 degrees the other way. And I choose to look at what you've done, not your rhetoric when you're across from a conservative or a reporter confronting you with polls that show everybody's on the side of reason, which is to keep these boys out of these sports.
Exactly. And people are going to counter, oh, well, Gavin Newsom was so tyrannical during COVID. He just went crazy. It was really bad. People are really upset about the trans stuff, yada, yada, yada. And yes, I agree. That is all true. But guess what? The memories of the average American, sadly, I think are very short. Okay. People barely remember that COVID happened just a couple of years ago, right? Or rather, the response to COVID. And many people argued that that was essentially the eradication of our constitutional rights. And guess what? Nobody cares. And there's no accountability. So who's not to say that somebody like Gavin Newsom could get elected, running under the guise of being moderate, and people will fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. I mean, I'll even talk to Republicans who say if you bring up what happened during COVID, they'll get angry and say, don't talk about that. No one wants to talk about that anymore. Let's just pretend it never happened. Okay. Well, in that case, in my humble opinion, you're going to get more of the same, and that is tyranny. With all that being said, everybody, thank you for coming in today. We really appreciate it. As always, comment below. Let us know what you like about the clip, what kind of stuff you want to see next, and hit that subscribe button. It'll really help us out. Please do it. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you again soon. God bless.